Now we can begin to assemble our piece. It's been about an hour, hour and a half, and now my pieces are leather hard. True leather hard means that I can pick it up by the corner and shake it, but nothing's gonna bend unless I choose to bend it, and then it's slightly bendable. All right, similarly, these longer pieces, I can hold on one end and shake it, and it'll start to tip because it's long and it's not supported. But, you know, if I wanted to bend it, it will bend, but it will also stay kind of bent. All right, so it's not turning chalky at all. If it turns chalky, it's too dry to build with. You have to start again. You cannot just get it wet again and have it work once it started to turn into chalky dry clay. All right, so I'm gonna take all these pieces that I cut earlier. I've got this little middle bit that I'll need to take care of. Okay, and I can actually just stack them up. I can be pretty rough with them at this point. Notice that my edges have stayed pretty crisp and clean. I did not mess with them while they were drying. All right, and then I've got my top and bottom pieces, which are larger, which are also quite leather hard, okay? And I just left those out in the air for about an hour. This extra little piece, you know, it'll bend if I want it to bend, but it's definitely not floppy. It's definitely not wet anymore. All right, so I'm gonna start off with one of my 3.5 by 3.5, so that's the larger pieces. And I'm gonna select which one I want to be my lid and which one I want to be my base. And I think I'll start off with this one as my base, all right? So it's gonna be a slipping and scoring situation from here on out. If there are, like the one I have here, a little bit of an irregularity anywhere on your pieces, you can definitely come back in and just like cut off the extra stuff again. All right, and that came off quite cleanly. So just make sure that yeah, there's a little extra bit on this one too from where I cut it. And that's just gonna wanna pop right back off for me. So I'm just gonna slice that right, okay, perfect. All right, so now we're gonna be slipping and scoring. So this is a really important part of this process, how these fit together. So they do not go on the outside like this, because if I put them on the outside, they actually don't extend all the way to the end. So they're not gonna come together. If I tried to put these two on the outside edge, you notice it doesn't come all the way to the corner. That's because we built it to go this way. Okay, so we're gonna have one that goes on all the way to the corner and has a gap, and then the next one fits into that gap. And then the next one, you'll notice that there's a gap here again. The next one fits into that gap and then leaves a gap on the last side. So there's no gap on this side, but there is on that final side. So everything is what you would call staggered. Everything is just moved over a little bit. So this last piece goes on here, and then that is how the whole thing is going to come together. So when I'm slipping and scoring, I need to consider where I'm gonna make those attachments and how the parts are gonna go together. All right, so let's grab another view of that. All right, so here we can get a good view of what I'm talking about when I say that they fit together in a staggered format. So it's coming together without beveling the corners, so that the parts are laid out together. All right, so this is your top view of how it should be coming together. All right, so I'll just take off one of them so you can see what I'm talking about. So the space that the first one takes up will have a spot next to it, and that's where the next one fits. And then the next one fits into the gap on the opposite side, and so on and so forth. All right, so there's a gap here, and it goes to there. Okay, oop, now we're all falling, but that's how it works. Okay, so now that I've got all of my component parts, I can start slipping and scoring. I highly recommend that you take some little piece of cardboard or paper to put underneath while you're working, because it'll make it easier to move around with your stuff. So I've got my bottom here. I'll flip this over so that it's easier to see the contrast. All right, so I've got my piece here and it's on something so it won't stick to the table. I already know that I have a lot of slipping and scoring to do. So I've got a paintbrush here, you can use your finger, and I've got some slip. And I'm just gonna take that slip, and I already know that I'm gonna be painting around this whole bottom edge here. So I'm just slipping that up, and then I can start preparing my pieces. So you wanna kind of think it through. If this is gonna connect in this fashion and leave a gap here, and my next piece goes here on the corner, I need to slip and score like inside, like this, you know, this area to get it to work. So I always do 2 at a time, so I can kind of mark out for myself here where I'm slipping and scoring. So for this one, I know that I'm gonna do this side and the bottom. So I've kind of made little marks for myself so I don't do it wrong. And on this one, I know I'm doing the bottom, and I believe that it's gonna connect, yep, on this side here. So I've just marked that out for myself to make kind of a roadmap. And then I can go ahead and apply slip there as well. When you are working with hard slabs, which is what these are leather hard slabs, it's really key that you are juicy with the slipping and scoring, because that is the main thing that is holding your whole piece together. There's almost nothing else holding your piece together besides the quality of your slipping and scoring. And you're gonna put a little noodle in as well, but the slipping and scoring is key. So here I've got my scoring tool. You could use anything that's sharp, a cutting tool like this or a needle tool like this, but the effect is going to be the same, that you need to score it very deeply and repeatedly. So back and forth in multiple different directions. Look at how gooey that is. If yours does not look like this, you need to go a lot more, add a lot more slip, because it's the disruption of all those little platelets that makes it fit together. So we're just gonna go ham on this slipping and scoring. And this is all gonna come together really quickly once you start going, because your pieces are all ready to go already. You don't have anything that's not ready to go right now. Everything is already leather hard. All right, I'm gonna put a little bit more slip in there. So this should look quite gooey. If it's not looking really, really gooey, get messier with it. If there's not gloop coming out the edges when you slip and score and put it together, your attachment is only sort of there. All right, and I've seen enough of these early ceramics projects come apart to know better. All right, so I've got here, and then I've got my front and my bottom. All right, and that's gonna come together on this corner. All right, and this part's really important. I'm going to hold these in my hands and push, push, push them together. So I've gripped and pushed them together. All right, to the point where I've got slip oozing out of the joint on the inside. If you don't have slip oozing out of the front and out of the back joints, you have not pushed them together enough. Just give them a little push. All right, then you can come in and clean up. So take your finger up the outside and wipe that off. All right, and on the inside, you're gonna leave that for now, because what we're gonna end up doing is reinforcing with a coil. Okay, and then we're gonna push down. So we want it to actually attach downward. So I'm giving it a little push down. Okay, and on my outside edge, I can clean that up now. And my favorite thing is to come in with a rib tool. You could use a metal one or a plastic one. And you can hold your hand on the outside and you're applying pressure this way and just kind of run up the outside with a flat edge. And that's gonna help it just make that connection. You don't want to come straight on to the corner, because that's not gonna preserve the beautiful crispness of the corner. So I'm going on either side. So one side and then the second side. And clay will come off when you do this, or it might come up like this. You can just pinch it if you get a lot of mess. But now I've got a really well done corner on the outside, and on the inside, it's ready to reinforce with a little bit of clay. So we'll do that next. All right, so we're gonna use a little bit of clay now to make a noodle that we can reinforce our inner edge with. You don't want it to be big, you want it to be smaller than your pinky finger. So really actually kind of like a noodle. But we're gonna use this noodleage to reinforce our piece. So I've got my slipped and scored inside bit, and what I'll like to do is just give it one last score using the slip that's already there, because it's already pretty juicy the way I do it. Okay, and then I'm going to just run some of that gooey slip that I've still got on my scoring tool. Okay, you want to slip and score your noodly thing. Okay, and then you're going to press that into the joint. Okay, and I'm going to bring it, I'm going to rip that off there, and then I'm going to reinforce on this edge. And then I'm going to take it and I'm going to reinforce on this bottom edge. So it doesn't need to go on wide or thick to be structurally helpful. And now I'm going to come in and use my finger and blend it out and just make it very pretty. Okay, so I don't want it to show that that's a separate part that went on. I'm just coming in there with my fingers, and I can even come in there with a sponge at the very end. And I'm smoothing that out. So look at how well made that attachment is now. Okay, I've got my outside and I've got my inside, and it's not coming apart. All right, I could shake it and it's not gonna come back apart. That's because I've made a good attachment. All right, so I don't recommend shaking it like that to find out, but the attachment is good. All right, so then I'll continue on and I'll attach my other two sides in the same fashion.